Okay, so now let's well actually it's over to you, Dom, because yeah, I'm waiting for a question from you. And what we're going to talk through is one specific topic here in depth. So okay, over to you, Dom.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as you can see on screen, this video is going to talk about Camtasia and how to effectively use Camtasia to record videos. So my first question, basic one, is Louis, could you please talk through a basic recording operation and how you'd go about doing it via Camtasia?
Okay. I'm actually going to talk through this using an older version of Camtasia, which is the one I tend to use, and then a newer version as well. And obviously they keep creating new versions, so things might look slightly different, but that's why I wanted to talk through different versions to go through the fundamentals and how they may have, basically stayed the same, even though the versions may look the software may look completely different. Okay, so first thing is make sure your computer's tidy. That's very important. And I actually have a dedicated computer which I use pretty much just for recording. And, I try to, if you use it just for recording, if you keep it tidy and don't have any personal files on it and so on, you'll find recording a lot easier, I find. Because if you're using your main computer and there's tons of clutter on it and maybe even more than one person using it, you have to tidy it up before you record, and you have to make sure, you don't obviously record personal stuff like, I don't know, password files or whatever. So you may need to keep pausing before you open up a folder just to make sure there's nothing there that should be there. So just, something to bear in mind. And then, how much of the screen do you want to record? All the screen or just part of the screen? And that's some options here. Okay, so you generally, of course, want to record audio. You can potentially record camera if you've got webcam as well. And in this version, which is version 3, you can choose region of screen, specific window. And for example, this is a window. It's like, this is a window in Windows. I generally go with entire screen. And then record audio, record camera, yes or no. And then you really want to check your levels here before you start recording. And actually, I always suggest before you start a recording session, do one test recording just to make sure it looks okay and the audio levels are okay, and so on, and everything's coming through clearly. So generally, your audio input source, microphone audio, and just check. For example, if I shout now, okay, I don't want to shout too loud because you'll deafen you, but the higher this goes, and then once it starts getting into the red, it starts getting a bit loud and might potentially distort. So so it's good to do that. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, just different views here, different views of the software. Effects, I don't really use these actually, but you can apply effects to recording. System stamp, add caption, add watermark. Sound, cursor sound, you can have cursor sounds if you wish, keyboard sounds, cursor, show cursor, hide cursor, this is the cursor of course, hide cursor, show cursor, highlight clicks, so when you click it highlights it. So you can play around with these and see which ones you like and which you don't. Zoom and pan, you can zoom in to different sections of the screen that way if you wish. Just not something I've used, but it's an option. And you can customize all these effects here. And so on. Okay, options. Quite important to go through this. Program options, always on top. Probably not. Enable tips, you don't really need tips, I find. Display recording preview after recording is stopped. I don't usually use that. Display options dialog after recording is saved. I generally save as AVI rather than CamRec. And I generally ask for file name. Okay, temporary file folder where while you're recording it creates a temporary file to store what's being recorded. And again, it's important that the drive, the disk drive or the disk partition you're saving to has enough room. Okay, streams. Okay, capture frame rate. I usually do 5 frames per second. The more frames per second, obviously, the bigger the file is going to be. And I find for these sorts of videos, 5 frames per second is fine. Video setup. Yeah, I just use that. So, feel free to pause this video, just copy down these settings if you wish to copy these. And a lot of these did come through trial and error, so you may find it a bit of a shortcut. Interleave audio every 1 second, audio setup. That's what I generally have. Format PCM. 44 kilohertz, so 44.100 kilohertz. 16-bit mono. I don't feel there's any reason to record it stereo, which would obviously take twice as much room. 16-bit, 44 kilohertz is fine. Audio capture device, whatever your audio device is. Okay, hotkeys. You want a hotkey for pausing. And yeah, I generally have it as F8. So whenever I want to pause, I just press F8. And then I can cough if I need to, or get a drink, or whatever it is. Stop hotkey when you're done recording, just whatever you've set up here. I often actually set up a combination, for example, Alt plus 10. Because if you keep hotkeys simple, sometimes it doesn't interfere with the other software you're using. So the more complicated you make it, like, for example, Shift, Alt, and F10, that's very unlikely to clash with any other software. And then there's advanced hotkeys if you want to use auto pan, hide, zoom in, zoom out, and so on. Enable live output. Okay, so this is, I've never used this, but this is if you want to, instead of actually recording and saving a video, effectively stream it live, and then you've got but it's not something I've used, so I can't really talk about that, to be honest. Capture. These are generally the settings I use. Minimize before starting capture. Hide capture rectangle. Round frame. I actually found this one quite important. Captured layered windows. And actually I did discover this the hard way, just through making mistakes. Certain software uses what's called a layered window, which is, I guess a semi-opaque window that floats on top of another one. And it's important to capture those, so I would say, yeah, keep that checked. Disabling display acceleration will result in much smoother screen recordings. So, yeah. Okay. Interesting. I thought I had that checked. Okay. Camera, I don't generally do that, but that is an option. You can have, again, a webcam in the corner of the screen, for example. So those are generally the settings I go with. And again, I don't really use advanced settings, and never really have. For example, I've never used zoom in and all the other things. I literally just record and just create content. But of course, play around with the others if you like and see what works for you. And it can even make the video more interesting when you zoom into sections of the screen and stuff like that. Okay, literally that's it. And then just record when you're ready, and pause whenever you need to. And just when you end the video, it just saves the video. Okay, let's look at the Camtasia 6 recorder. Okay. For some reason I get all these blotches. I'm not sure. It could be because I'm running GoToMeeting at the same time. I'll try to ignore those. So yeah, select area, full screen or custom. Camera, yes or no. Audio. Your audio options. You see, pretty much the same apart from that. Let's look at tools and options. Okay, it seems to be more here. Save as CamRec or as AVI. I generally go with AVI. Pause, no. Display countdown before starting capture. Oh, could do, but don't really need to. Glowing capture rectangle. Don't need that for full screen. Hide capture rectangle, yes. Yes, for those. Oh, yeah, definitely disable screen capture during capture. Just screen saver during capture. Restore cursor location after pause. That's interesting. Yeah, so they're adding more features with each version. Force pop-up dialogues into recording area. Interesting. If you're not doing the full screen. Minimize the system tray during recording. Okay. Video configuration, automatic or manual. I prefer manual. 5 frames per second. Video compression. TextSmith screen capture codec. Keyframe data every 80 frames. Configure better compression. Audio. Okay, it's Realtek source microphone. Audio format PCM 44 kilohertz 16-bit mono 86 kilobits or kilobytes a second. Okay, and yeah, you can check the volume here. You see camera. No, don't have that, but you can add that. Hotkeys again. Program. Run Camtasia recorder when Windows starts. No, we don't want that. Enable tooltips. Don't need those. Display recording preview. Don't need that. Show warning when toolbar overlaps recording area. If it's full screen, I imagine it always overlaps. Okay. And then where the temporary video file is being saved to. So it's, even though it looks different, it's basically the same, just presented in a different way. And my screen's going quite weird with this, so let me close this. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all that's involved for recording. And yeah, just, everything that I've mentioned in the previous video, planning is good, and it helps, and if you know your subject, it helps the video flow. And yeah, do pause as often as you need to, and do make a point of checking your videos as well, and always do a test video first just to make sure everything looks and sounds okay. So that's pretty much it for recording. I guess I'll pause and just see if there's any questions that have been prompted from that. So okay, we'll come back in just a moment.
Thanks, Louis. I think I just got one quick question on the back of what you've said so far, and that's sort of stepping back from all the detail you've given about the different versions of Camtasia and the features, etc. Can you just give a very maybe simple and basic how to I don't know, do these five steps for when you want to just a basic beginner wants to record with Camtasia? What are the different things that person needs to remember, that person needs to do?
Okay. Doesn't really make any difference because the steps are the same, but I'll do it in Camtasia Recorder 3 just because it seems to agree better with my computer at the minute. So the first thing I would do is run the Capture Wizard. Just make sure all the settings are accurate, so entire screen, or whatever it is for you. Record audio, record camera, yes or no. Check the audio device, check the audio input, microphone, check the input levels, okay. And once I've done that, I would do a test recording, just 5 second, 10 second test recording, just to make sure everything looks okay and sounds okay. And, I wouldn't need to do this every time, but before all that, or the first time, of course, I would make sure, all the settings are correct as I want them, specifically or particularly tools, options, and everything there. Make sure there's enough space on the hard drive, that's very important. Make sure you're saving the temporary files to the best place. Make sure all the make sure all the video settings are as you want them, and so on. So basically, I would just have a quick check over everything, then do a quick test video, listen to it, watch it, make sure it's okay, and that's pretty much it. And of course, make sure my computer's tidy enough to do recording, and then there's enough quiet here, and I'm going to be sort of left alone while I'm recording. So I guess those are the main steps. Do you need me to sort of organise them a bit better, or is that clear enough?
No, I think that's clear enough. Yes, I suppose it seems fairly simple to use. I think it was just good sort of to have that recap for people, because you'd gone into lots of different other more detailed features and sort of compared between the two different versions. So
yeah,
no, that's fine. I suppose it just leads on to what we next want to talk about, which is, okay, well, once you've done a recording, what happens next?
Okay, so what I've generally done, actually, if I'm recording a whole bunch, I would say I'd do the recording first and then the processing afterwards. But of course, you can do it any way you wish. Generally, when I find when I'm in a recording mood, I try to get them done in one go, so just add the way. So, let's say you have a bunch of videos. Well, one thing to do, of course, is check your videos, check they're okay. And it's not always the most interesting task viewing your own videos, because you know what you're going to say, basically. But you or someone else can check them, and it's an important task just to make sure everything's okay and there's been no major mistakes. And then after that, then really you're moving into Camtasia Studio. Okay, I'll demonstrate this in Camtasia 3 and Camtasia 6, but again, they're pretty similar. Most of the differences are incremental rather than, complete makeovers. And, okay, let me actually, I'm not sure if we were going to do this as a Q&A, or I just sort of pile on and just keep talking through what I was going to. Just pause one moment. Okay, so just actually before I start diving into Camtasia Studio into a lot of detail, I think you've got just a few more questions, Dom, you wanted clarified.
Thanks, Louis. Yeah, I'm going to throw a paragraph at you with about 3 questions in it and see how you cope with it. It was just to do with before you get into Camtasia Studio, and you might want to double check videos that you've just done, and you're not ready to edit yet. Where would one go to view those videos, and how would you view them? Yeah, okay. Those 2 questions first, and I'll ask this.
Okay. Well, you can choose, which again in Camtasia Recorder you can choose whether you save it, which format you save to. And I generally specify AVI, because AVI is compatible with almost any video player. And you can also choose in Camtasia Recorder, I believe, where it saves to by default. But generally, I've set it up so after I've recorded a video, I'm prompted where do you want to save this and what do you want to call it, so I can save it anywhere that way. And then AVI, you can view in anything. You can view in Windows Media Player, you can view in VideoLAN or QuickTime or basically almost anything. So that's quite easy.
Okay, and yeah, my third question is to do with, once you've recorded it in Camtasia, your video, are you in any way tied to only using a Camtasia editor? Because, say for example, you record an audio MP3, you can then go back to that audio MP3 and edit it in a number of different software packages. Is that the case with videos recorded in Camtasia?
Again, that's one benefit of saving to AVI, because you can actually edit in almost anything, but it does create a somewhat specific version of AVI. What you need is a codec, which is, I guess, a decoder for successfully playing and working with Camtasia recorded AVIs, Camtasia saved AVIs. So, you won't need to install this separately if you've got Camtasia, but if you're working on the AVI file on another computer, go to TechSmith.com, download video codecs, and you want to download and install TechSmith Screen Capture Codec. So that's the main benefit of saving to AVI is it's very compatible with different software.
So you could say that AVI is almost the video equivalent of an MP3.
Maybe in a way, but it's kind of the opposite in a way, because MP3 is quite small, whereas AVI is huge. Basically, it's not very QuickTime is a lot better for playing on your iPod, for example, because it's quite relatively small in size but still high quality. AVI can be huge because all the information's there. In a way, it's like the equivalent of WAV file format, which is the original audio before it's downgraded in a way to MP3.
Yeah.
So
okay, I understand.
AVI is generally like the absolute source file of a video, and then you just work with it and convert it to different formats.
Okay, thanks, Lloyd.
I think one of your questions was going to be about, it was, you can get it on the website, find out on the website, of course, but it was about Camtasia software.
The different types of Camtasia software that exists, and do you need all of them, basically?
Well, you get it all together. It's called Camtasia Studio, and the studio is like the production area where you do editing and finalization and all that. And the other applications Camtasia Player, which is just a video player, Camtasia Recorder, and there's others I don't really use, Audio Editor, Menu Maker, and Theatre. And I don't tend to use those, but those are add-ons that actually just give you different options, really, I guess, for presenting your videos, and the same applies in Camtasia 6 as well. Camtasia Studio, and then Player, Recorder, Theatre, Menu Maker.
Okay, thanks, Louis.
Alright, so now if we start actually, again I'll do this in Camtasia 3, I'll also touch upon it in Camtasia 6, but there isn't a huge difference. What you do, basically, any video you want to work on is, okay, where have I put them? There we go. Some videos here, some intros there. Okay, on the desktop I've got a videos folder and an intros folder. In the videos folder, okay, I've got 6 AVIs of one of the instant video and pub video sets, in fact. And for example, if I wanted to work with these, I could click, hold and drag any of these, just one of them or a few of them, and put them in the clip bin. And you can also do it the same way by clicking on Import Media. You can achieve the same result by clicking on Import Media. And let's, actually I can't shrink that. Okay, so those are the videos we've imported. So to actually work in them, you click, hold and drag one of them into the, it's called the timeline. And it shows you the video as the video section here and the audio section here. And you can click on Show Storyboard, and it just shows you the separate pieces that make up what's going to be your finalized video. At the minute, it's just the video and nothing else. So let's go back to timeline. Okay, so let's run through some of the features. Like, what I often do, back to the desktop, intros. These are basically short introductions to each of the videos. Click, hold and drag those. Okay, hold on. Okay, bear with me. Okay, click, hold and drag these intros into the clip bin, or again you can just do Import Media. So what I've ended up with is video 1. Again, I wish I could bring this down, but in this screen setting I'm using for recording, and I generally record in 800 pixels by 600 pixel screen setting, just so anyone can view it fairly comfortably, whatever their screen setting. Okay, so video 1 next to intro 1. So actually let's right click on that and remove from timeline. So let's start with a blank timeline. And I click, hold and drag an intro, click, hold and drag a video. And actually let's zoom in so we can see that a bit more clearly. So there's an intro and immediately after there's a video, and they would lead straight into each other. And you can see that here in the preview section.
Welcome to our video series on 5 easy ways to boost your website traffic. In this video, we'll look at how writing or publishing articles can get visitors to your site.
Okay, I don't know how, hopefully that came through clearly in the recording. As you see, there was no transition from the intro to the main video. So what I often use is transitions. Click on that. And some of these look really good, and I particularly like the fade, but I find they make the final video file a lot bigger. So generally I've stuck with gradient wipe, which looks good, but also doesn't make the final file too much larger. I found, there's other ones like random bars, random dissolve, and so on. So you can play around with these and see which ones you like. So you just click, hold, and drag the one you like here. So there's the intro, and there's the transition, and there's the video it's transitioning into. And you can do that if you have multiple. You can add more and more here if you wish, if you have multiple videos and so on, or maybe I don't know if outro is an actual word, but you can have an intro and then an outro here, so you could transition then from the main video to the outro. So what you can do here is right click, and how long do you want the transition to take? I often just choose 5 seconds even, and then you can change the transition if you wish and remove it and so on. So when that's done, I click on finished. So there you can see in the timeline, intro, transition, main video. Now what I'm going to be talking through here, because there's a lot of other features here, as you can see, title, clips, voice narration, record camera, call outs, so on and so on and so forth. I've never really used any of those, to be honest. And what I'm mainly going to be talking through is just how I've used Camtasia, created hundreds of videos from that, and that's worked very well. I guess if you want to dive into the more advanced features, TechSmith offer a lot of video tutorials on their own site and stuff. But what I wanted just to talk through here is how I use Camtasia, how it's worked for me, and kind of what I've learned from that over the years. And for whatever reason, I've never just really made a habit of using these more advanced features because I've found I've never had to. Okay, but a few things to keep in mind. Okay, if you click on tracks, shows you the audio tracks. At the minute there's just audio 1 track. If we uncheck that, we remove the audio from the final video. So you've effectively muted it. Or we can put it back. Again, you can zoom in, zoom out. Split is quite important. If you want to edit a section, right click and split. Let's try that again. Excuse me, my mistake. Make sure this is where you want to split. Right click, split, and there we go. That's what I was trying to do. So you could, for example, put the marker there, play to make sure you're at the right section, and then you can split where you want the section, the section you want removed, for example, begins. Let's say it ends there, right click split, and then here you can remove from timeline. And that's it, you've got rid of that section. So it's an easy way to edit that way. And always good to make sure that the audio aligns with the video. Make sure that sometimes there's issues with this, especially if you're having the audio re-recorded, or occasionally the audio gets corrupted. I found, very occasionally, you want to make sure these line up. These two white bars for the video and the audio line up over on the right and on the left. Okay, we zoom out a bit. Okay, so you can increase the volume or decrease the volume if you wish. What I generally do actually is, let me just clear the storyboard. Let me get rid of all this. Okay, there we go. What I often do is just drag the video I'm currently working on into the timeline. And then I do File, Save Audio As. Okay, and that saves, I can save it to the desktop, for example. That saves the WAV file, the original highest quality audio from that video, as an audio-only file. And the benefit of that is then I can do some editing on the audio, which works better, I find, than doing the editing within Camtasia, and then reintegrate it. So let me just show you how I do that now. So I'll save this. Okay, what I generally use for audio editing, which I find works very well, is Sony SoundForge Audio Studio. And I got it for, I don't know, $80 or something like that. So it's not overly expensive, but there's also free software like Audacity, and there's many other audio editing software. And they all have basically the same features, they just do it in slightly different ways. They just present it in slightly different ways. But I do find this the best out of all the software I've tried. And actually, look, the audio shouldn't be going off the top and bottom, so it's actually recorded a little bit too loud. That might actually create some distortion. So double click to select all, process normalize, and let's it's changing the volume. Let's change it to -6 decibel. Yeah, -6. So it should bring this down. Okay, yeah. Let me just zoom in. It shouldn't have. It's cut off. It was recorded too loud. So the person who redid my audio recorded it too loud. That's gonna create some distortion. That's created some distortion. So yeah. Anyway, so I select all. What I do, well, you don't have to do this. This is generally what I do with my audio. Is process EQ graphic, and I apply this equalizer setting to the audio. And it strips out a lot of the bass and keeps the treble and the mid-range. And I find, you play around with this, different equalizer settings if you wish. And obviously it depends on your voice, what works best for you. You might not need to do this at all. I just find this kind of makes things a little bit clearer. And, I just find, just from trial and error, I find applying this equalizer setting to the audio makes things a bit clearer. You see, that's really how the audio should look. It shouldn't just sort of be flat and cut off like it was before. Okay, and then select all again, and what I do is normalize it to 0. So it makes it as loud as possible, because as mentioned in the past, I've recorded videos too soft. And people can always turn video, they can turn videos up only a certain amount, but they can always turn them down as much as they need to. So I feel it's better to have audio too loud rather than too soft. Okay, so that's all I do, and then I save that. Okay, so let's close SoundForge. Go back to Camtasia. So let's just what I do is just file new project just to clear all this. So what I would do then is going back to video 1, drag video 1 into Camtasia, and okay, so on the desktop, so drag the audio file video 1 wave So now, if I Okay, there's video. Drag that to the timeline. Yeah, just often best to wait for this to finish. Drag the audio down here. And you may want to test the following out. It seems to work better in different versions of Camtasia than others, but it works very well in 6 actually, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment. Get rid of the audio from the video, because you don't want the audio twice. So get rid of audio 1, which is the audio from the video. And just leave the audio from the video, which has been processed in SoundForge. So now, you can produce video as, or save it as a project. I generally save it as a project. Okay, let's just call it demo. Okay, new project, and then file batch production. This, you don't have to work this way. It's the same. I just prefer to do all the processing on the video and then just do a batch production in one go and just let it run for as long as it takes. So click on add files or projects. Okay, so there we go, demo project. Next, you can create different profiles, different conversion profiles. For example, you may want to create a master AVI file now with a new audio. And if you click on Profile Manager, you can check the settings. These are the settings I use for AVI. So text emitter screen capture codec, colors true color 24-bit, frame rate 5, size largest, and so on. So you can just pause here and take these down if you wish, or click on Edit. And actually this box is too big for the screen setting I'm using for recording. So AVI video file, colors, frame rate, video compression, these settings again. Encode audio, interleave audio every 1 second. Audio format, again, for AVI it's always PCM, 44 kHz, 16-bit mono. And video size, largest video size generally. Well, the same, I generally save it to the same size I recorded it at. So I could specify, for example, 800 by 600, which is the size I recorded it at. I believe, actually, I need to double check that. So if we go back to video, right click, properties, summary. Oh, actually, yeah, it recorded it at 640 by 480, so very small screen size. So I could preset video size 640 by 480. And that's largely it. So you just changed the settings for that production profile, as it's called. For example, I have different production profiles, Flash FLV, Profile Manager. Those are the settings I use. So you just apply those if you're saving. I find these work very well. It's a very good compromise between quality and size of file, because FLVs can become very large in size with the wrong settings. And then SWF. SWF works very well for these sorts of videos, but I find, for example, FLV works well, but often creates much larger files. Actually, let me just come back to that in a moment. But SWF, these are the settings I use. Okay. But what I tend to do these days is I save the videos to FLV format. I upload that to Amazon Web Services and use the player from longtailvideo.com, which works very well. It's a very good video player, actually. And then you just add that to your website and just link to the FLV file on Amazon. And I found that setup works very well. You can, of course, use the built-in video players that Camtasia produces for example. This is default SWF video player. Let's have a look. And default FLV player. So you can use it. Actually, it looks largely the same. You can use the default ones if you like. But I do find long tail video works very well, so I tend to use that now in combination with FLV files. Even though FLV files are much bigger than SWF files, and means you use more bandwidth, it doesn't really come to much at all using Amazon Web Services, so it's not a huge issue. It's like, you know, a few dollars a month, or if not even that maybe. Okay, so the main formats are, AVI generally is your source video. Generally you would publish an SWF or FLV, depending on, SWF are smaller than FLV, but you would generally need to use the, often need to use the standard video player. FLV again seems to work better with long tail video, but that may be fixed in later versions. But as mentioned, I'll generally save to FLV now. Upload that to Amazon, use long tail video player to stream the FLV from Amazon. And the other format I may publish in, which seems to work well, it seems to produce very high quality video at very surprisingly small size, is QuickTime format. Okay, after a lot of experimentation, what I found worked best, the software that worked best for me, I found, compromise between quality and size of file. And actually it's amazing how small the QuickTime files are. They're actually smaller than Flash files. For example here, one MOV 22 megabytes as a FLV, it's 57 megabytes, and as a SWF it's 11 megabytes. SWF smaller in that case. So I use this software, AVS Video Converter, and there have been newer versions, but I find this one works perfectly, so why upgrade and tempt fate. So I'm still using this version, which works fine. So all I do, click to convert to MOV, just browse for the videos you want to add. Okay, let's just add one. And then where do you want to where do you want to output it to? And profile. This is when I set up my settings. Click on Edit Profile, and feel free to pause and just copy these down. But this is the settings I use in this software, and I find it works fantastically. And that was after a day or two of trial and error with lots of different settings, lots of different software. So this is pretty hard gained knowledge. So yeah, just feel free to copy it down. Okay, and then advanced, split, batch mode, and convert. So, I would generally publish for an ebook or membership site or whatever at Flash format and maybe QuickTime format, but of course with private label videos, Instant Video Empire, I offer the videos in AVI format, XE format, FLV format, SWF, and so on. And I'll come to Camtasia 6 in just one moment. Software I also use what's called, there may be better software to do this, but I've kind of got used to this now. But Advanced X Video Converter, add task, I only use it for this, convert video to pictures. And then you open a video. You may or may not have a use for this. I include this in Instant Video Empire for the sake of completeness, but I probably wouldn't use this a huge amount in my own projects. Capture one picture every 50 frames I generally do. And yeah, the rest is fine, and then convert. And what it does, it goes through the video and just takes a screenshot every 50 frames. So with these AVI files, since it's 5 frames a second, it basically takes a screenshot every 10 seconds. Okay, so let's have a look at Camtasia 6. Okay, as you can see, it looks largely the same, and it is. It's just incremental improvements rather than complete redesign. So, for example, let's just take all these videos, drag them into the clip bin, and okay, so I always keep use recording dimensions here. Okay. And, largely the same. I just use the same old features I do in Camtasia 3. You can choose to, remove that audio track from the video if you wish. You can see the storyboard or go back to the timeline, zoom in, zoom out, split. What you can do, which is different, is click, hold and drag, select sections of the video and do File, Produce Selection. So instead of having to split the video, so for example, what I often do with GoToMeeting is record like a very long 3 or 4 hour video, which is actually 3 or 4 videos, but just recorded in one session. And I might open it in Camtasia and then select the first hour or whatever it is of that video. Maybe the first hour of the 4-hour video is video 1. So I just select the first hour and then just say produce selection as. So then I'm really taking one video out of one single 4-hour video, if that makes sense, and creating a finalized version of that. And you see much the same settings. You can make recording, project settings, produce video as. So yeah, that's, I'll say that's largely it. So how I work with GoToMeeting, actually we'll probably go into this in more detail, but just as a quick overview, I record in GoToMeeting as we are now, and then you create one, recording of your video. And as mentioned, I have to do multiple sessions in one recording, so I've then got to break up the big recording into smaller recordings. So that's how I do this. And then I do what I've always done. I extract the audio, I edit the audio, I reapply it, I create a master AVI of each video, and then convert the AVI into FLV, SWF, QuickTime, whatever it may be. So that's really the entire process, and I don't know if I've gone too quickly, but I just really wanted to talk through, how I've used Camtasia for years, how I've used it to create hundreds of videos, many hundreds of hours of video coaching, and that's worked very well. And I haven't really got into the advanced features because I've never really used them, so it's not something I can talk about with a huge amount of expertise. But what I wanted to talk through is how I've effectively recorded hundreds of hours of video. Okay, so we'll pause here, and I think we'll probably come back with a Q&A. Okay, so we just tried to put together a Q&A, and didn't seem to be a huge amount, so I think you've just got one question for me, Dom. So, just over to you.
Okay, yep, just one question for now, and I was just wondering if, in your own video itself, if there's a way of maybe importing other people's videos, which obviously you have to have rights and access to first, but is there a way of taking video clips from other sources other than your own recorded videos and blending the two together?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, make sure you have rights to it, and it probably does help. I'd say it would be helpful, I think, if the video is in a similar format. If it's not, you can probably use Camtasia or other software to convert it to the format you want to work in, for example, AVI. Let's take, for example, if we get rid of this, there we go, start over on the timeline. This is video 1, this is video 2. So let's say you've done the conversion, they're both AVI, you have rights to use them. AV1 is like you talking, and then you transition. Okay, let me zoom out. You want to transition into maybe a seminar, for example, a recorded seminar. So drag that there. And that's it, but obviously there's no transition, so you would just add a transition as usual, whatever you may wish. Again, the fade's nice, but it does make the file a lot bigger, I find. Transition duration. Okay, 5 seconds will do. And that's all you would do, but obviously, point to bear in mind is how, what size are they? And actually, what size are they? I mean, like if we go to videos here, again, if you right click on any AVI, and this probably works in other video formats as well, what's their width and height? And ideally you want them to be the same, and if they're not, then let's say that the second video is in WMV format, which is Windows Media Player format, I believe, and you wanted to convert that to AVI, so you would, let's start in Camtasia. So imagine this is a WMV file. You would drag it in there. You would drag it to your timeline. Keep the recording dimensions. Okay, I'll do that for starters. And then you produce the video. And then you can choose, okay, converting it to AVI. Colors, frame rate, I would use standard AVI settings, which I always use. Okay, that looks fine. 44 kHz, 16-bit mono. And then you choose to make it the same size as the first half of the video. So let's say it's 640 by 480, so you would select that, or preset video size, and you can select here. So I would do that first of all, and then once you've done that conversion, make sure the converted video looks okay at the new size. And if it does, then that's pretty much it. So I would say those are the main points to keep in mind, and also pay attention to volume. Make sure there's no huge volume disparity between your video, and the video you're importing. Okay, let's take video 2. Let's imagine that's the video we've just worked on. Add it there. Okay, that's good to do that. The tips. Let's try again. Okay, and again, add a transition, and you can just put the marker there, just play it here, and make sure the volumes sound about the same. And if you need to do editing again, of course, you can use SoundForge to do editing that way. And I would say that's largely it. Again, make sure you have rights to use the content, but that can work very well. And even though Camtasia Studio is a very basic editor compared to many editors, it's, I find it works well, and I'm just used to working on it, so I tend to use it. There are dedicated video editors if you want to do much more advanced editing, but I would say most of these types of videos, that level of editing isn't really necessary. Does that answer the question? Bear with us. Okay, so I lost Dom there for a second, but so anyway, does that answer the question, Dom?
Yes, thanks, Louis. It does. But just when I was watching you, it raised another question, which was you convert into mono, which surprises me. Why? Could you explain why mono rather than stereo?
Well, in mono, it still plays out of both headphones or both speakers. It's just stereo. You have exactly the same information, just doubled, basically. I don't think there's any, I could be wrong about this, but I've not noticed any discernible audio improvement, stereo over mono, if what's in stereo is exactly the same. Actually, let me bring up an example, it'll probably make more sense. Okay, I'm in SoundForge, and there's just a mono audio file. To file new, and sample rate 44 kHz, 16-bit stereo. If I go back to the original audio, double click copy, Control C to copy, back to the new one, Control V, that's fine. You see, it just takes the audio and just basically copies it twice. And, I could be wrong about this, but I think if you save a stereo version of a mono file in this way, you won't really be able to spot the difference. Stereo is useful if what you're hearing in one ear should be different to what you're hearing in the other ear. For example, often they do that in films, of course, where the sound travels from one speaker to another, for example. But, we're not going to be doing that, and it just creates double the amount of data, and it can all massively impact the size of the file in every format, in AVI, in FLV, in a flash format, QuickTime, everything. So it's basically double the amount of data for no added benefit, so that's why I always stick with mono.
Okay, no, just because it might improve the overall sound of a recording, but if it doesn't, what everything you just said now makes sense.
Well, I remember testing it years ago, and I couldn't spot a difference, but I could be wrong, and maybe worth testing again. But I don't think the amount of extra data it creates and the increase to the file size, I don't think is worth the marginal benefits to the audio okay. Quality.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for explaining that.
Okay, I think unless you've got any more questions, I think that wraps it up for this video.
No, that's it for now. Thanks.
So, okay. So, we'll stop here, and then we'll in the last video we'll talk about GoToMeeting, how we're using it, more detail about why we're using it, and how I work with GoToMeeting video files.